Next is our new segment that we started putting together this year, and it's the Curated for You. And today we are honored to have Serena Deutch joining us from Vela Education. And I am so excited to hear all about what you've got going on at Vela and how this could potentially impact our people. So, Serena, I'll turn it over to you, and I'm ready to hear.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me today. I have a little slideshow, so let me, okay, so thank you guys again for having me. This is a really cool group, and excited to see some of your LinkedIns and see all this, collaborating and discussions happening. Like she said, my name is Serena Deutch. I'm from Vela Education Fund. And yeah, I'll jump into sort of our grants, what we do. Some of you may have heard of us. We may be very new to some of you. I met Tamara in Arizona in the fall when I was doing a tour of some of our grant recipients in the Phoenix area. So she's the one who invited me here. So thank you for that. And also always exciting to both meet people doing this exciting work in person and virtually. I love all these communities of education entrepreneurs I've gotten to meet over the years. For a little bit of background just about myself, well, first of all, Vela is a nonprofit nationally. We fund in all 50 states. We're a remote team. I'm based in New Orleans. I don't know if any of you guys are in Louisiana. I see Joe smiling, maybe the South. I saw the Atlanta thing. That's exciting too. Before I joined Vela, I most recently was working in schools doing family outreach and admissions and marketing. I talked to a lot of parents who were looking for new school options for their children that I think often did not exist yet. And so it's exciting to see so many more new approaches to education happening. And I also spent some time working with tech entrepreneurs that were going through accelerator programs. So this is kind of a cool intersection of, small businesses, entrepreneurship, education, love all of that. So excited to see all of you and hear about the work that you are doing. And then one more thing on sort of setting the stage. I'm on the external affairs team at Vela. For us, that means getting the word out, storytelling, making sure people know about all of our exciting opportunities and entrepreneurs in our network. We have a different team that handles the nitty-gritty implementation of our grants program. So I'm going to share some of our opportunities, but then I'll also share a place where you can ask more specific questions about our grants if you're interested in any of those. But with that, I will jump in. So Vela is a catalyst for innovation. We are a national nonprofit fund that was established in 2019. We use a trust-based approach to philanthropy to invest in what we call everyday entrepreneurs, the students, parents, educators, and community leaders who are transforming the future of education through permissionless innovation. And for us, that's all about trust. We believe that the people working in communities, you all know what families are looking for. It's different for everybody, and you guys are all meeting those needs. We intentionally offer smaller grant amounts to more people as a way to help sort of spread the support across a larger community, sparking innovation and creativity among this group. We trust that the entrepreneurs that we support know best how to support learners and families. And we trust that these families, they know what educational opportunities will work for them, for their children. So again, it's really a trust-based, community-driven approach. We have a very simple application process, which I'll get into. We have mostly unrestricted funding. If you apply for one thing and your needs change, that's okay. You guys use it however you want. That's sort of the goal. We know that as business owners, there's always something, and needs are always changing. To date, Vela has awarded over 2,000 grants totaling close to $24 million to support non-traditional educational models. Grant recipients reside in all 50 states and 3 US territories. Collectively, these programs are serving over 6.5 million learners and families. So we do these small grant amounts. It's a lot of small communities, but collectively that really adds up to make a big impact in this innovative education space. What does Vela support? So I'll go into a little bit of our target areas. So like I said, Vela's been around since 2019. In 2020, a lot of our funding was sort of driven by pandemic responses. Learning looked really different. There were really creative things happening, and we wanted to be able to support those sorts of innovations quickly, support students, support educators. In the last couple of years, as learning has evolved, we've had to sort of narrow in on our grant criteria just as we've had increased demand, which is really exciting. So we used to be sort of just about any form of innovation in education. More recently, we've sort of found a niche in out-of-system learning. So right now, how we define that is programs and people that are supporting learning outside of the traditional public, private, and charter schooling. We sort of intentionally leave that vague. People define traditional differently. In our grant application, we have more details of sort of some of those definitions. Some states define private school in a certain way or traditional school in a certain way. So it is somewhat open-ended, but I'm just acknowledging that for some of you, this could be a fit. It may not be a fit for everybody today, but that is sort of constantly evolving. And we recognize that, in-system change is really important in increasing education outcomes, but we believe that these out-of-system alternatives are really going to stretch the envelope in terms of what school looks like and how learning happens, really led by people responding to needs in their own communities. A bit just more about the types of things and what that looks like that we might fund. We have a really diverse and dynamic community. Many are primarily learning environments, such as micro schools, co-ops, unschools, self-directed learning environments, or other unconventional models. We also have people who are providing services to students and families in the non-traditional space, people who are helping make these things more accessible. And then some programs provide support, tech curriculum, tech platforms, curriculum resources, things like that. So, if you're helping families navigate how they can have resources that best meet their needs, as long as it's not only people who are in big public schools, but if you're working with families that sort of are generally helping people put together a schooling experience that works for them, you may be a fit. And then specifically why I'm here today is we just launched our 2023 micro grant program, which is very exciting. Our micro grants offer $2,500 or $10,000 grant awards to newer business owners. I think Grant said a lot of you guys are, have been operating for 3 years or less. When I heard Kim talking about that 50 million number, many of our people are not trying to be there, never trying to be there, very happy in their sort of small space that they have. Those are the people mostly that are going to be receiving micro grants, the ones that are early on their entrepreneurial journey. And then we have a second form of investment called Next Step grants. Those are a reinvestment in the micro grant recipients that are sort of taking a next expansion step, growing to a new area, something like that. And then finally, bridge grants are our largest grant opportunities. Those maybe are for the 50 million in revenue folks, so it doesn't have to be quite that large, but people who are expanding nationally, people who are, really growing at a significant scale, helping bridge some sort of education innovation to wider adoption. So right now, just our micro grant application is open. It's going to be open on a rolling basis from now until October 6th. So you have a lot of opportunity to think about it, decide if it's a fit, explore, tell your friends, tell people you know. We're going to be reviewing applications every 2 months. So it is sort of a rolling basis, and we'll be doing info sessions and office hours and sharing more resources to help make sure people feel comfortable. Even with a streamlined application process, we know people are always going to have questions, and we definitely don't want to waste anybody's time. The applications for the Next Step grant and the Bridge grant are going to be released hopefully later in the spring. So in a minute when I'm done, I'll put a few links in the chat about signing up for our newsletter, staying connected, where we'll share sort of other sorts of resources. And I will have time for questions at the end. I know there's a lot of information, but I'll share just a little bit about our eligibility requirements. So I know people were talking about forming an LLC, nonprofits. We don't have any requirements about your business type for our micro grants. We just require that funding is used for a charitable purpose. So you can be a 501c3, you can be waiting for your 501c3, you can be an LLC, you could be just an individual who's not yet incorporated. We have a list of charitable purposes For example, we cannot give you $10,000 and you can pay it to yourself as a fancy bonus to go on vacation. That, unfortunately, to the IRS is not a charitable purpose. But if you're using it to, provide scholarships to students to access the work you're doing, for example, and I think there's 10 of these that we include, that's a thing that we would be able to support. I already talked a bit about serving students outside of the traditional school system. We do require funding to be used within the United States. And then we are looking to fund programs that are opening and operating quickly. So we say we don't really award planning grants. I think you guys are all open, but just in case you know anybody else who may be a fit, we wouldn't provide funding right now for somebody who is opening in 2024, for example. But if that was the case, we would say, okay, we don't apply right now, but maybe apply in October, and then we'll be awarding the grants for programs opening in early 2024. And then finally, we ask that there is some sort of proof of concept. A lot of our entrepreneurs are really, really early stage. This is the first funding they've ever received. It'll really allow them to, professionalize in some way, reach the next level. But we do at this point in time require that there is some sort of website, social media presence. It doesn't need to be, you've hired a full-on marketing firm to do everything for you yet, but just something so we can see that you are doing what you say that you're doing. So different grant programs, they all have these same basic eligibility requirements. And again, we are constantly evolving based on feedback from the community. Some of these may have different focus areas year over year. And so I would say if this even seems a little bit of a fit now or in the future, would love to stay in touch, because we know the sort of field of supporting education, making it more accessible, making it more learner-centered is something we're really, really excited about. I'm excited to see how that evolves. So our last sort of piece that I want to share today, and I'll share more resources again about getting in touch with us, but we do have a few different ways to know about Vela, know what we're doing. We have a newsletter. We send it out once a month. We share resources, events happening, announcements about grants, things like that. We also have a really big focus on sort of the storytelling around this innovative education movement. Chase calls it edupreneurs. There's a whole bunch of different names in this space if you've been in it for a while. But all the creative things that people are trying, we're trying to shine a light on that, make sure that people know it's normal and exciting and okay to try a slightly different form of education for their child. We're not trying to change everybody's minds, but we're trying to make sure it's more normalized that these options are out there. And if they work for you and your family, have at it. So we're going to conferences, we're having grant recipients speak on panels, we're sponsoring events sometimes. So we're just looking at different ways for this sort of movement to be in the spotlight a little bit more. So we also share news stories a lot. Our social media has a lot of great resources in this space as well. So with all of that, I'm going to put some of these resources in the chat for you all. And like Chase said in the beginning, I have a little one-pager about our grant programs that you are welcome to look at, share around, but also while I'm here, would be happy to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Serena, can I just hop in and give some additional plugs here?
Please.
I received both the Next Step grant and the initial micro school grant. So I have been invested with Vela now for the last 2 years. Their application and support process has been amazing. As Serena said, she came out, was able to tour one of our micro schools. And I was also a speaker at the National Hybrid Schools Conference last year on the Vela panel to talk about what they're doing to support educational entrepreneurs and student choice options. I can't speak highly enough. Something else that they do is they have a monthly member call or focus, group. And it's amazing to see how much support you get by being affiliated with Vela. I remember one of my co-panelists at the conference last year, Shireen Radigan, has a program in Florida called Colossal Academy. Well, in her partnership with Vela, she was able to go on, and she was I think a semifinalist, right, in the Yaz Prize. And she is just doing amazing work. And all that thanks to, and myself, I'm doing good work too. And all thanks to Vela. So definitely please take some time to look through the options, and they do create a really solid support system for you.
Love that plug. That's great, Tamara. Thank you. And I think, Tilly, didn't I see earlier in the chat, you've also received the grant. What was your experience with them?
Yeah, so parent support for online learning, and this was a couple years ago. We received a micro grant, and it helped us launch our learning toolkit, which is everything that my business does through PSOL is free to families. And so that was, so helpful because there was a lot of tech on the back end. So had to hire out to be able to provide that. So that Vela grant was really instrumental in getting that resource out to families.
That's great to hear, Tilly. It's nice to meet you, and I'm glad that was really helpful.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Perfect.
Serena,
what other questions do you have?
Serena, I was looking on your qualifiers, and you're looking at there's one that says the infrastructure for, alternative education. Do you think in your mind that would include like programs for teachers of unconventional schooling, like professional development and things like that?
Yeah, as long as the teachers are sort of in this unconventional space, definitely a lot of what we highlight tends to be like what Tamara is doing, these environments, the schools, the micro schools, which is great, but totally the supports and the infrastructure are a really important part of helping all of those things be successful. So we talk a lot about learners and families, but if it is something that's going to enable educators to do this work, that definitely should fall, I would say, make sure you read everything closely, but that generally, yes, would fall into one of those categories.
Serena, that was fantastic. I know I had 3 or 4 emails leading up to this that said, I can't be on the call, but I can't wait to see the Vela section. So there will be more questions likely to come. On the slide, I think you had the email address, right? Grants at something. If you want to throw that in the chat, maybe. And if anyone has questions, you can reach out there. Perfect.
Yeah, I'll put the grants in the chat. And then if anybody wants to reach out to me particularly, I'll put my email as well. But the grants at will be the more specific, nitty gritty questions. But yes, it was great to be here.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. And I'll send all these things out. Plus, there's another sheet, PDF, I think, that you sent me that I'll send out to everyone